राम 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 नाम तारकम राम 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 नाम तारकम राम 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 नाम तारकम राम 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 नाम राम कृष्ण वासुदेव भक्ति मुक्तिदायकम् राम कृष्ण वासुदेव भक्ति मुक्तिदायकम् राम 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 नाम तारकम् राम 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 नाम तारकम् राम कृष्ण वासुदेव भक्ति मुक्तिदायकम् राम कृष्ण वासुदेव भक्ति मुक्तिदायकम् जानकी मनोहरम् सर्वलोकनायकम् जानकी मनोहरम् सर्वलोकनायकम् शङ्करादिसेव्यमान् दिव्यनाम कीर्तनम् शङ्करादिसेव्यमान् दिव्यनाम कीर्तनम् राम 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 नाम तारकम् राम 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 नाम तारकम् जय विघ्नेश्वर जय 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 लंबोदर जय 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 गणनायक जय सुखदायक जय जय गणेश जय 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 विघ्नेश्वर जय 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 लंबोदर जय 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 गणनायक जय सुखदायक जय जय गणेश जय 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 शक्ति माँ जय 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 ज्योतिर्माँ जय 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 शक्ति माँ जय 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 ज्योतिर्माँ जय 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 पाप नाशिनी मुक्तिदायिनी जय दुर्गे जय 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 विघ्नेश्वर जय 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 लंबोदर जय 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 गणनायक जय सुखदायक जय जय गणेश जय 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 पवन पुत्र जय 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 राम दूत जय 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 पवन पुत्र जय 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 राम दूत जय 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 शक्तिमान बजरंग बाण जय हनुमान जय 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 विघ्नेश्वर जय 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 लंबोदर जय 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 गणनायक जय सुखदायक जय जय गणेश जय 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 राधे श्याम जय 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 सीताराम जय 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 राधे श्याम जय 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 सीताराम जय 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 गोपीनाथ जय विश्वनाथ जय राम कृष्ण जय 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 विघ्नेश्वर जय 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 लंबोदर जय 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 गणनायक जय सुखदायक जय Ganapati Jai Jai, Jai Umakant Jai Jai, Kailashpati Jai Jai, Jai Mahalochan Vishal Jai, Shiva Shankar Jai Jai, Jai Vigneshwar Jai Jai, Jai Lambodhar Jai Jai, Jai Gananayak Jai Sukhdayak Jai Jai Ganesh Jai Jai, Jai Vigneshwar Jai Jai, Jai Lambodhar Jai Jai, Jai Gananayak Jai Sukhdayak Jai Jai Ganesh Jai Jai, Jai Jai Ganesh Jai Jai, Jai Jai Ganesh Jai Jai. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Ajnana Timiranasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So this morning I want to continue with the section of the Ramayana, the Ramcharitmans of Tulsidas from Uttarakhand that we started to discuss 2 months ago, with the 7 questions that were asked by Garuda to the teacher, Kakbhushundi. So in last month's lecture, we took up the 2nd question, which is Bara Dukha Kavana, what is the greatest suffering? And the answer that we saw and we discussed, Nahi Daridra Samadukha Jagamahi. But there is no suffering in this world that is like poverty, Daridra or poverty. And so we discussed the various meanings of poverty, first of all starting with material deprivation, lacking the basic necessities for dignified living. The Hindu tradition does not praise involuntary poverty. It recognizes that we all have certain material needs that must be satisfied in order to live life with dignity and to live with meaning. So we are not an anti-materialistic tradition in that sense. But we also spoke about Daridra as a condition of spiritual poverty as well. The dissatisfaction, the sense of lack or want that is deep in the heart of every human being and that can only be satisfied by the awakening to the divine, by divine awakening. So this morning I want to pick up the 3rd question. So all of these questions and answers are very interesting, and in some ways they are surprising, as I said in my last lecture. So question 2, what is the greatest suffering? And we saw the answer is Daridra, or poverty. And so the 3rd question is Bara Kavana Sukha Bhari. So the opposite question. What is the source of the greatest joy? What is it that brings happiness or true happiness to human beings? So again, contrary to expectations, in the 2nd question, having said that poverty is the source of great suffering, one expects that the teacher might say, well, but prosperity is the source of happiness or sukha. But he doesn't. Perhaps because that is already implied in the first question. Because if you say, what is the cause of suffering, and you say poverty, then you would imply that, well, overcoming poverty is necessary for human well-being, for a flourishing life. So he doesn't go to the opposite and say, well, material prosperity is what is necessary for human happiness. He goes and gives an answer that speaks about human relationships. What is necessary is a certain kind of relationship in our lives. And the answer, as you will see, underlines the fact that as human beings, we are relational beings. We live our lives in relationships. From our birth, we are existing in relationships with our parents, our brothers and sisters, our grandparents. Our lives are embedded, interrelated in this network of relationships. We cannot be human outside of these relationships. And therefore, a meaningful life is a life that is also defined by certain kinds of relationships. So he gives an answer that emphasizes and speaks about the relational nature of human existence. The fact that we cannot be fully human outside of a community of human beings. Santa Milana Samasukha Jaganahi. Santa Milana, he says. So the question is, Kavana Sukha Bhari, what is the source of human happiness? And he answers, the teacher answers, Santa Milana. There is no joy in this world equivalent to what he calls Sant Milan. Milan means meeting, but I think it's more than meeting. It's relationship. So he says it's having a relationship with persons whom he describes here as santas. Santa Milana. Relationship with santas. This is a point that we find occurring in many places, in many different ways in our tradition, in the Hindu sacred texts. Even in this Ramcharitmans, it's a point that teachers return to again and again, almost in every chapter, the value of these, of Santa Milana, or relationships with the santas. So the first question to be asked, as we look at this answer, is who is a santa? If relationships with santas are necessary for our well-being, for our happiness, who is the santa? How do you define the santa? Well, in fact, that's the next question. And I will go into great detail with that in our satsang in January. But for the purpose of our discussion today, I just mentioned because it's necessary for me to clarify his answer. So who is the santa? And in the next verse he speaks of the santa. He says, Para Upkara Vachana Manakaya Santa Sahaja Subhav Avaraya. So he says that the santa is someone who is devoted, committed to the well-being of others. Para Upkara. Para Upkara is for him the lakshana of the santa. The essential quality of the santa is para upkara. Devoted to the well-being of others, as typically vachana manakaya. In word, in thought, in action. So this is the characteristic of the santa, the good, the virtuous person. Because the word santa, the root of the word is goodness. Goodness. Even towards those who are not good. In another section of this discussion, this issue comes up again. Who is a santa? And there, in this case, Sri Ram himself was explaining the lakshana, or the qualities of the Santa. And he used a very famous example, which never ceases to speak to me, and I think never ceases to speak to us. And there he began this discussion of who is a Santa with this very powerful example. Santa asanta hi kayasi karani, jini kuthara chandana acharani. Katai parasu malai sunubhai, nija gunadehi sugandha basai. So he says the difference between the Santa, the virtuous, and the good person, and the asanta, the one who lacks virtue, is like the difference between the axe, kuthara, and the sandal tree. Like a difference between an axe and the sandal tree. Kate parasu malai sunubhai. That even when the axe cuts or chops at the sandal tree, nija guna dehi sugandha masai. That the axe comes back with the fragrance of the sandal tree. It is still perfume. The sandal tree gives its perfume to the axe that hurts it. He says this is a Santa. In other words, the behavior of the other doesn't change the character of the Santa to be good. Like the sandal tree always exudes its fragrance even to the axe that cuts it or chops it. It's a very beautiful example, The Santa is someone who does not return hate for hate, doesn't return abuse for abuse, doesn't return anger towards those who are angry. So why, if this is, a working definition this morning of the Santa, then the question is, why is the answer that relationship with such persons is important for our well-being, for our happiness, for our sukha? And there are 3 points I really want to make on this answer in our satsang this morning. First, I think it's a central teaching of the Hindu tradition, and I think of most of the great religious traditions of our world, that virtue or goodness is essential for a meaningful, for a fulfilling, for a happy life. It's essential. It's necessary. And I'm speaking of happiness here in a very deep sense. This is why, dharma is the first goal of Hindu life. Dharma, virtue, is the first goal of Hindu life. And then, we have artha, kama, and moksha. This concern, at the heart of dharma, is concern for the well-being of others. This is what dharma is all about, concern for others. So in the Hindu tradition, prosperity is important, artha we saw in the last answer, but a life of prosperity without virtue, without goodness, is incomplete. It is unsatisfactory. It does not lead to deep human fulfillment. And dharma is unique to human beings. We have artha. Every living being needs artha. Everyone has to feed, breathe, needs places of shelter. That doesn't make us unique. Other animals have artha needs. They have their own forms of pleasure also, limited though it may be. But animals also pursue karma. But dharma, the intentional choice to pursue virtue, to pursue goodness, is unique to us as human beings. We are capable of virtue, of the pursuit of virtue. But we do not define the good life only by prosperity. Tradition recognizes that goodness and virtue are necessary for well-being, for happiness. This is an argument, if you go back to even ancient philosophers, this is a central argument of Aristotle in his virtue ethics. Aristotle speaks of happiness as the ultimate end and purpose of human existence. But he also argues there in his virtue ethics that happiness depends on acquiring a moral character. Happiness depends on virtue. And he just, on cultivating generosity, justice, friendship, courage. These are the virtues that are essential for human well-being. So that's my first point. A flourishing human life. Virtues required for meaningful, flourishing human life. Our ideal in the Hindu tradition, while we are not anti-materialistic, but we do not propose an ideal of prosperity without virtue. Without dharma. Artha without karma is insufficient. It's lacking, it's dangerous. Secondly, I think the answer, Sant Milan, points to something fundamental about what it means to be human. So if virtue, following both Aristotle and the Hindu tradition, is necessary for human well-being, as the teacher's answer here underlines, we learn what it means to be virtuous from virtuous human beings. We learn what it means to be virtuous from virtuous human beings. Those who embody virtue become our teachers, our role models. We learn what it means to be human from other human beings. We do not come programmed. If you take an example, let us imagine, you took a dog's pup the moment it was born, and you brought this pup into your home, and the pup was raised in your family, in a human family, with no association with other dogs. In almost all respects, it will still behave like a dog. It will bark, it will walk, it will eat like a dog. Since its behavior is controlled almost entirely by instinct and genes. The environment does not alter this behavioral pattern in any kind of significant way. But if you did the reverse, if you took a human baby, this is just an imaginative example, and left this baby in the care of dogs, the outcome would be dramatically different. Without any human contact and association with human beings, the child will bark, the child will crawl, the child will eat like the dogs eat. We are the most dependent of all species upon other members of our species for our growth and development. We cannot develop into human beings apart from a community of human beings. And so what it means to be human is learned behavior. As we'll say more technically, we are socialized into what it means to be human. And so we, for good or bad, we are deeply influenced by the thoughts, the ideas, the behavior of those with whom we spend significant time, those with whom we associate most clearly, especially in the early and in the formative years of our life. So it's easy to understand, therefore, why the teacher is emphasizing this association with virtuous people, Santa Milan. So this is my second point. Virtue as learned behavior, not genetic behavior, but virtue as a consequence of a certain way of nurturing. We speak about nature and nurture. In this case, our tradition is that virtue is something that is nurtured through our association, our relationships with the significant people in our lives, especially in the early years of our lives. So this brings me to my third point. This process of understanding what it means to be a virtuous human being starts from birth. Only recently has neuroscience been able to measure the development of the brain and to study those factors that contribute to or hinder healthy brain development. There's been very, very interesting studies that are being done, in fact also using scans to show how the brain develops. You may know, but it's a very useful and interesting fact that the brain is the only human organ which is not fully developed at birth. It grows. It continues to grow and develop after birth and grows most rapidly in the first 2 years of a child's birth. And how it develops is also a consequence of the kinds of relationships that the child has with the significant human beings interacting with the child and the larger environment. It's not only biological factors that determine the development of the brain, how its synapses are formed and how they connect. Is also affected by emotional relationships between parent and child and sibling, child and teacher, especially in the first 2 years. So the quality of care that children receive during these early years directly affects physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So while our genes passed on by our biological parents establish the broad basis of our human development, the environment, the relationships where children grow up, help to form who they're going to be. And we also know very well that the experience of violence, whether it's verbal or physical, in a child, and this early years, affects the development of the brain. There are scans to show that, how certain areas of the brain will fail to develop in children who are subjected to violence, the parts of the brain that actually become inactive. And in those children who are raised, who are nurtured in non-violent ways, those parts of the brain are highly, also much more developed. So violence shuts off or leads to a certain kind of stunting of certain areas in the child's brain. So what we are learning, just to summarize briefly, is that the underlying fact is that being surrounded by good and loving human beings, and I will use the word Santa to describe such beings. Parents are Santas also. Having a Santa as a parent, being parented by loving and caring human beings is vital for both the physical, emotional, mental development of the child. Violence, on the other hand, alters the developing brain structure. It affects language acquisition, cognitive functioning, generates fear, anxiety, depression, aggression. So Santa Milana is important throughout the life of a human being for happiness and well-being. It sets the foundation. So when the text says, when the teacher answers here, Santa Milana Samasukha Jagamahi, I think we have to understand it in all of these ways. Now we have the knowledge to look at the effects of relationships at the earliest years of a child's life. Santa Milana is important. Those relationships are deeply consequential. So, earlier this week, we celebrated, Gita Jayanti, the anniversary of the gift of the Bhagavad Gita. And there is a beautiful verse in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that also speaks to this issue. I thought I will share with you also as part of the Gita Jayanti celebration. And there Krishna says to Arjuna, Yad yad acharati sreshta tattadeve tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokastadam vartate. It's a very beautiful verse that coincides nicely here with the discussion in the Ramayana. So he doesn't use the word Santa, but he uses the word Sreshta. The Sreshta. The Sreshta. So a Sreshta is a person, a human being, who is held in esteem and respect by others. A role model. And so we are all, in some relationships, we are all Sreshta. If your child, for the child, the parent is a Sreshta. For the younger sibling, the older sibling is the Sreshta. For the student, the teacher is the Sreshta. If your students look up to you, you are a Sreshta. If your patient looks to you for care, the doctor is a Sreshta. In every relationship, you know, we are depending on we are Sreshta. So if you are an employer, your employee considers you as a Sreshta. So here Sri Krishna comes up with a very important observation. Yad yada charati sreshta. And the verb that he uses is interesting. He doesn't say yad yad vadati sreshta. He doesn't say however the sreshta speaks. He says what the sreshta does, the actions are charati. In other words, we influence, the Sreshta influences others, not so much by what he or she says, which would be, if the verb in the text was vadati, but the verb is acharati, but what the Sreshta does. It is the actions of the Sreshta that matter. They look to what you do, not what you are saying. They look to see how virtue is embodied, not simply speaking about virtue, but how you embody virtue. How it's expressed in who you are. So, yad yada charati sreshta, the way in which a sreshta or santa embodies virtue.
That means in action.
Pardon me?
You mean to say in
action? Action, yes. Action.
Can it be interactive?
And interactive also, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. How, in other words, you know, I may tell you, you know, I may give you moral instruction, but my instruction will speak to you much more eloquently if it's reflected in who I am and how I act in my relationship with you. So that's why I said the verb acharati. What I do, yes, interactively is more important than what I say in moral formation. In moral formation. In moral formation. So in other words, when it comes, just because when it comes to moral formation, this idea, you know, do as I say, don't do as I do, is not very effective. You know, it doesn't work very well because they will look to what you do and much less to what you say. So we influence those who look to us, but we do so by who we are. And this is the significance of the verb acharati. That becomes, as he says, sayat pramanam. That becomes the standard. Pramana means your standard. What you do becomes the standard, not what you say. But your actions become the standard for the others. And then he, you know, in the verse he repeats yad yad acharati. Twice he says yad yad, whatever. You know, so you might say, well, I was thinking, why does he yad acharati was enough, but yad yad acharati. And I think at least as I read it, I would say that he repeats whatever, to make the point that in moral formation, every action counts. In other words, it's an argument against compartmentalization of life. Like you'd be moral in one sphere and immoral in another sphere. Whatever. You know, there should be virtue is, one of the definitions of virtue is integrity, which is moral consistency, not compartmentalization of virtues. So my virtue should pervade all spheres of my life. My private, my public, my professional, my family. There must be a certain integrity, there must be a certain unity. And santas are those who exemplify this unity. That's why he says manavachakaya, in word, in thought, in action. So I would say a sreshta or santa, to use the language of Ramcharitmans, is a person who is not a perfect person. I'm not sure that the word perfection is applicable to any human being, but certainly a person who strives for integrity, who constantly works to becoming a better human being, a human being who is morally consistent. So, what should we take away? I end every lecture by asking, what should we take away from this answer? That happiness, our happiness is also dependent on forming relationships with people who are virtuous and who care for us without any self-interest. What do we take away? I think first, clearly, santas are human beings with whom we should seek to build relationships. Secondly, we should all aspire to become santas. The santa is a human goal for us all. A santa is not a monk. A santa is not a renunciant. A santa is a householder, a person living in the midst of profession and family life, who is aspiring for virtue, who recognizes the significance of virtue and aspires to embody virtue. It's an ideal for all of us in whatever roles we may have as parents, as professionals, and so on. We must be deeply conscious of our influence on others and seek to be a positive influence for good. Santas are human beings who love unconditionally, who have learned to love others unconditionally. Unconditional love means love that is not tainted by self-interest. That's why he defines the santa as parupkar, vachana manakar. Those who are dedicated to the good of others, without self-interest. This is how, in Narasi Mehta, in his famous song, he started, but he was using the word Vaishnava, which is Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. But it's the same idea. Pira parai jani re, parupkar karo, fir bhi, mana abhiman, without any self-interest. So there you see the definition of the Vaishnava and the Santa coincide there. And finally, I think as parents and grandparents, for many of us now, there's an important question that we all have to wrestle with in this world, which is, who are the cultural heroes of our children and grandchildren? To whom do they look? Who are the beings that they admire? Because who they admire, they aspire to become like. Who are the cultural heroes of children growing in the world today? Just think about that. Now here the teacher is saying, Santa Milana, make sure that they form relationships with people who are virtuous. But virtuous people today are not always the cultural heroes of young children. From whom are they learning what it means to be human? who are the leaders and what kinds of values our leaders embody. Because we cannot underplay the significance of the values that a leader embodies in determining the sort of moral fiber of a community. And so who are again I leave this question, who are the cultural heroes of contemporary society? Are people looking to cultural heroes like Gandhi, MLK, and others who have they been now replaced by leaders who may not be santas, who may not embody the virtues that we want to see in our grandchildren and our children and future generations. So, Santa Milana Samasukha Jagam now is a challenging statement for us, challenging answer in this teaching for us. So I will stop here.